Prosecutors arrest the head of the sunken Sewol ferries operator Thursday in search of the cause of the tragedy that's left more than 300 people dead or missing. South Korea's foreign minister says a nuclear test by North Korea poses a direct challenge to China, calling for Beijing to act. Samsung Group's IT unit, Samsung SDS, says it's going public by the end of this year. What does it mean for the group's management succession plan? We'll find out.
Welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sean Lim.
And I am Kang Tae-ri in Seoul. Search continues both for the missing passengers of the sunken ferry and who was responsible for what part of the mishap.
Kim Ji-yeon, who's been covering this story since it first broke, joins us now with the latest. So, Ji-yeon, tell us about how the government is trying to keep the ferry operator from continuing its operations.
Well, the government is trying to revoke the business license of the ferry operator, given all these recent findings that there was negligence on the part of the captain and the crew members of the Sewol ferry. And two more witnesses told authorities earlier today that the captain and the crew who were in the ship's steering room did not fulfill their duties to help the passengers to safety.
And also CEO of the ferry operator, his name is Kim Han-sik, was arrested today on multiple charges, including negligent homicide.
That's right, Terry. Prosecutors say that they've been working up to this arrest, and they argue that the overloading of cargo on the ferry would not have been possible without Kim's approval. They're trying to prove that the ferry operator knew about the vessel's problems, but continued business for the sake of profits.
And unfortunately, the tally of the missing had remained unchanged for over 24 hours, but we're just getting reports now that 2 bodies have been recovered.
That's according to Yonhap News Agency, and now it's 271 have been confirmed dead, while 33 are still missing. But I'll update you guys for more on that. But back to the search operations. The search operations inside the ferry were suspended for most of the day due to strong currents. So search operations operating in the air decided to expand its coverage as far away from the ferry site as 80 kilometers. That is because of concerns that some bodies have drifted away from the ship. And I've mentioned this before, but it's really getting dangerous for all of those involved in the search now. More than 20 divers have been taken to a nearby hospital after showing symptoms of decompression sickness. This is a diver's disease that includes acute pain and paralysis, and it is raising concerns that more measures to ensure the safety of these civilian search divers are necessary.
And of course, certainly hoping that we don't see any more casualties from the rescue team, at least. Thank you very much, Ji-yeon, for that update. Now, in the wake of the Sewol ferry incident, the Korean government has stepped up efforts to uphold stricter regulations to ensure the safety of passenger ferries operating in Korea.
The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries says it plans to expand an ordinance that was limited to only cargo vessels and foreign ships to include passenger ferries that have routes in Korea within the next 6 months. The measure was passed at the National Assembly late last month.
The ruling and opposition parties each elected a new floor leader today, but the winners will have little time to celebrate. They now face the critical challenge of handling the National Assembly's investigation into the Sewol disaster and its aftermath. Choi Yoo-sun reports.
The ruling Saenuri Party's new floor leader Lee Wan-gu is a 3-term lawmaker from the central Chungcheong region. He is the first from the region to be elected party floor leader and is known to be a member of the faction close to President Park Geun-hye. His running mate Chu Ho-young, who was named the party's new policy committee chair, is part of a different faction, but from the party stronghold of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. The duo faces zero competition as the only candidates who applied and were appointed without a vote on Thursday. Analysts say a consensus was likely formed within the party to endorse the Lee-ju team for a more balanced representation of various party factions. The opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy elected the first female floor leader in Korea's constitutional history. Three-term lawmaker Park Young-sun, who came out the winner after a runoff, is thought to have garnered support from the party's newest faction, including the current co-leaders, as well as hardline junior lawmakers. Park's electoral victory comes 2 months after the former Democratic Party merged with independent lawmaker An Cheol-soo's camp. Her political fame and hardline stance are expected to add vigor to the newly formed party. Both new floor leaders face the tough task of negotiating when and how to carry out a parliamentary probe into last month's Sewol ferry disaster and the government's response. Lee of the ruling party said it may be too early for Parliament to investigate the accident, as the priority now is to find all of the missing passengers. He also vowed to work closely with the opposition on national safety. The opposition's Park, on the other hand, said she will push for an immediate investigation, adding that she'll openly cooperate with the ruling side, but also keep it in check on behalf of the people. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
The final verdict is in. South Korea's defense ministry says the 3 unmanned aerial vehicles recently found on South Korean soil did in fact come from North Korea. Our Kim Hyun-bin has more.
A joint South Korea-U.S. investigative team looking into the 3 unmanned aerial vehicles that were discovered in South Korea over a 2-week period starting in late March has stated definitely that they were sent from the north. The team's report says the drones were headed back when they crashed after running out of fuel. The GPS coordinates of the UAV show that they flew over key military facilities and took dozens of pictures, a clear violation of Korea's Armistice Agreement and the Non-Aggression Pact, which forbids the North and South from infiltrating each other's airspace. South Korea's defense ministry called it a clear military provocation, and they plan to submit the results of their findings to the United Nations. North Korea has hundreds of unmanned aerial vehicles in its possession, and dozens of others are believed to have flown over the south before returning safely to the north. When modified, experts say these surveillance-purpose drones could hold up to 10 kilograms of explosives. It's raised concerns about possible attacks, and the South Korean military admits a gap in its security. While it says it's well equipped to deal with enemy jet incursions and attack UAVs, they have a much harder time detecting these smaller drones. Seoul says it plans to purchase low-altitude radar and other military gadgetry to prevent further infiltrations. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
South Korea has once again warned North Korea against conducting a nuclear test, saying that such a move would be met with severe consequences. But North Korea says Seoul is the one stirring the pot. Song Ji-sun reports on the ongoing efforts to keep peace on the Korean peninsula.
If Pyongyang pushes ahead with a 4th nuclear test and defies the international community, it can expect swift and strong punishment. This was the gist of the South Korean foreign minister's warning to North Korea when he said the regime would pay the heaviest price in new sanctions. Chairing a meeting at the UN Security Council on Wednesday, Yoon Byung-se said a test would have a huge impact on the strategic landscape in Northeast Asia and would pose a serious challenge to Beijing as well.
We must clearly warn North Korea that if it challenges the international community with another nuclear test, it will be met with the most serious consequences.
At the same time, Yoon stressed Seoul wants to build a peaceful and new Korean peninsula through President Park Geun-hye's reunification drive. But Pyongyang continues to verbally attack President Park's initiatives. The North Korean daily Rodong Sinmun said Thursday that Park's ambition is only stirring the potential for war. It also says South Korean government was fooling the nation with a diabolical idea. Meanwhile, the U.S. confirmed Wednesday that Secretary of State John Kerry met with Wang Jia-rui, China's international director of the Communist Party. Wang, considered a key messenger between China's Communist Party and North Korea's Workers' Party, is believed to have discussed a possible resumption of the 6-party talks on North Korea's denuclearization. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang Sean Lim and Kang Che-ri from the heart of Seoul.
Begins now.
Primetime News, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
Over in business news, Korea's foreign currency reserves rose to an all-time high last month.
The Bank of Korea said Thursday that the country was holding $355.8 billion of foreign currency as of the end of April, up $1.5 billion from the previous month. It represents the 10th straight month of increase. The central bank attributes the trend to a strong euro and a rise in investment profits. Korea had the 7th largest foreign reserves in the world as of the end of March. China leads the pack, followed by Japan and Switzerland. Samsung Group's IT affiliate Samsung SDS has announced its IPO plans.
It says it's expanding overseas to become a pioneer in communications and healthcare services. Connie Kim reports on how the move puts the company on track to becoming one of the country's top 20 firms in terms of market capitalization.
Samsung SDS, the IT solutions affiliate of Korea's largest conglomerate Samsung Group, has announced plans to go public this year, expanding business to overseas markets. The company explained Wednesday that conglomerates are limited from participating in the public market, preventing growth. The CEO of Samsung SDS said it'll make a new leap forward to secure new growth technology and pioneer in communication and healthcare services in markets abroad. Currently traded at around $144 per share in the over-the-counter market, it is estimated that after the public listing, the company will be valued at around $10.8 billion. Now, this exceeds the value of LG Electronics at $10.7 billion, currently ranked 18th in the nation. With the company's announcement, Samsung is expected to speed up work to succeed the group to the children of Samsung's chairman, Lee Gun-hee. Speaking to Seoul-based Yonhap News, a researcher at IBK Securities said he believes the company will move to divide its businesses and make bigger changes in the future to help cement the top shareholders' influence within the group. Samsung Electronics currently holds the largest share of more than 22% of Samsung SDS. Lee Jae-yong, the first son of Lee Gun-hee, holds over 11% of the company's shares, while daughters Lee Bu-jin and Lee Se-hyun both have over 3% of the company's total shares. IPO lead managers will be selected this month, along with a decision on the size of the share offering. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And staying with another Samsung name, Sean, remember the latest Apple versus Samsung ruling that we got over the weekend? It's certainly brewing a lot of analyses on who won the battle and who lost the war.
That's right, and we're going to get one view tonight from Professor Moon Song-chun, who is joining us here in the studio. So, Professor, what is your evaluation of this ruling between Samsung and Apple? Who was the winner?
There is no winner, and there is no loser. And we can think that both are winning at the moment because it is a long battle, 3 years old, and the fight is still going on in 9 different countries in 30 different patent cases.
I see. So that's a very interesting take, Professor. So if Apple actually gives it up, then what happens then? Are we looking at some sort of cross-licensing deal between the two companies?
No, the cross-licensing is not possible because the Samsung works in the area of mobile communication. And Samsung is a pioneer. Samsung has so many patents in the area of mobile telecommunication. The patent that Apple holds is the area of software. So, other than software, the Apple has no patent. So they work in very different areas. But think of Google. Google is the real competitor to Apple in terms of software. Google has Android.
Right.
The Android is Google's, not Samsung's. So Samsung has been fighting on behalf of Google. It is, in reality, it is a fight between Google and Apple from the start. We have to look at it that way.
Do you think consumers see it that way? And how are they affected in terms of their perception of Samsung, the brand, after seeing all of this legal drama?
You know, the consumers are only interested in cost and the speed of innovation. You know, in terms of speed of innovation, the Samsung already won. The speed of the new product release for Samsung is between, I think, the 5 months or 6 months. But for Apple, it's almost 1 year. So the game, I think the game is over. But Apple, you know, Apple is the software strong force. It has focused on software for the past 40 years. You know who will win in the area of software. It is clear that the Apple will be the winner.
So this legal battle is actually, in your opinion, helpful for these companies, or is all of this fighting going to weaken them, and especially in terms of their focus on innovation?
You know, it is a matter of the confidence. You know, their kind of arrogance, and you know, if the battle takes long in the future, the Samsung and Apple will face big challenge from Chinese manufacturers. You know, so they should close their fight. You know, I think in a year, and ready to take the Chinese and Japanese challengers as significant players, and ready to take the cost of smartphone, lower.
Yeah, it's always interesting to talk about their love-hate relationship between the two. Professor, thanks for coming down to us and talking to us today.
Thanks indeed.
Thousands are taking part in anti-government rallies across the Thai capital of Bangkok a day after Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra was ousted from power.
With more on that and other international stories, we now turn to Paul Yee standing by at the News Center. Paul, so the clearer picture of the corruption case around the Prime Minister has Thai citizens up in arms.
That's right. There are heightened concerns of fresh political turmoil in the country on this Thursday after the courts ruled that Yingluck was guilty of abuse of power. Despite growing tensions, the government is pushing for elections in the next 2 months. Our Connie Lee has more.
Ousted Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra has been found guilty of corruption. On Thursday, Thailand's Anti-Corruption Commission indicted her over a controversial rice subsidy scheme. The case now goes to the Senate, and if she is found guilty there, Yingluck will be banned from politics for 5 years. All this comes a day after the Thai Constitutional Court ordered the Prime Minister and 9 cabinet members to step down for abusing power. Both sides of the government are now planning mass rallies in the coming days. But amid the political tensions, the government is pushing for elections set for July 20th.
The government is working under the framework of the Election Commission. We realize the election is essential. The Election Commission also has its own duty to push for elections.
Until the elections, Thailand's Commerce Minister has been appointed the acting Prime Minister. The political divide is clear. On Wednesday, about 1,000 anti-government protesters joined in on a march in Bangkok, welcoming the verdict that forced Yingluck to step down.
She has never shown any responsibility as Prime Minister. She should have left a long time ago. I'm so happy that the court acted justly.
Supporters of the ousted Prime Minister also gathered and said there would be no political vacuum in her absence. As there are growing fears of violent clashes, the U.S. has asked for a peaceful resolution, with the State Department urging all sides to resolve Thailand's political tensions in a peaceful and democratic manner so that the Thai people can choose political leadership they deserve. The latest ruling follows 6 months of political deadlock, where Yingluck's detractors have been trying to get her out of office. The ousted Prime Minister denies any wrongdoing. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
And moving on to Hong Kong, where 5 defendants are on trial and one is shaping up to become the biggest corruption case in the city's history. At the center of it all are Thomas and Raymond Kwok, 2 billionaire brothers who control Sung Hong Kai Properties, Asia's largest real estate companies. The others include Hong Kong's former Chief Secretary Raphael Huai, businessman Francis Kwon, and Sung Hong Kai Executive Director Thomas Chan. They're facing 8 charges, including conspiracy, misconduct in public office, and allegedly taking more than $3.6 million in bribes. All 5 men have pled not guilty to each of the charges. According to authorities, Raphael Huai accepted unsecured loans and other perks worth millions of dollars through a number of financial entities while in office between 2000 and 2009. The court is scheduled to summon over 80 witnesses, with a trial expected to last for 70 days. It's been over 3 weeks since more than 200 schoolgirls were kidnapped in Nigeria by the Islamist group Boko Haram. The Nigerian government says it is doing everything in its power to locate and rescue the kidnapped girls, but it appears that Boko Haram is still one step ahead. The lack of progress has outraged Nigerians and the international community. Thousands in the capital of Abuja staged a protest on Wednesday, venting their frustration and demanding effective action from the government. This past week, the United States said Nigeria had accepted an offer of military and civilian experts to help locate the hundreds of girls who are being held captive. Britain says it is also sending a small team, while France and China have also offered assistance. It's the latest act of violence. Boko Haram has been accused of carrying out another attack in Borno State, in which some 300 people were reportedly killed. That wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Sports. I'm Stephen Che. South Korea's World Cup roster is now set. National team manager Hong Myung-bo announced his final picks for the squad that's headed to the big tournament in Brazil. And looking at the list, defender Kwak Tae-hee is the oldest at 32 years old, while 17 of the 23 play in overseas leagues. 5 players, including midfielders Lee Chung-yong and Ki Sung-yong, are carryovers from the 2010 World Cup squad. That also includes striker Park Ju-young, who along with forward Lee Gun-ho have the most caps at 62. Well, it's a young but speedy team, according to manager Hong, who added that their talent would make up for the lack of experience. Meanwhile, former national team captain Park Ji-sung arrived in Korea and visited the Sewol ferry victims memorial straight from the airport to pay his respects. Park is looking to host a charity match for the victims and their families in mid-July. And moving on to the pitch, Forbes magazine unveiled its list of the world's most valuable football clubs, and Real Madrid tops it at over $3.4 billion. The Spanish club made number 1 on the list for the 2nd year in a row, largely driven by their success in Europe. Meanwhile, Barcelona came in second at $3.2 billion, a 23% jump in value on year, while Manchester United, oppositely, saw a huge 11% drop to $2.8 billion. And now for baseball, starting in the MLB. New York Yankees captain Derek Jeter hit his first home run of his final season, a solo shot in his team's 9-2 win over the Angels of Anaheim. Jeter said it was good to get one after 33 games. It was the 257th of his career. Now let's get to Thursday's top KBO matchup here in the nation. The Samsung Lions visited the SK Wyverns in Incheon. Now Samsung's Rick Vandenherk takes on SK's Choi Byung-yong. Now it's a pitcher's duel until the 6th when Choi Young-woo hits a 2-run homer for Samsung. Meanwhile, Vandenherk, he throws a gem, going 7 scoreless innings with 9 strikeouts and a walk. And it's all Samsung from there as Park Sung-min, he also goes long in the 8th for 2 runs. And they dominate this one and blank SK 5-0. And looking at the other games, Hanwha defeats LG 6-2. Nexon comes and gets this one late in the game over NC 4-3. And Tusan dominates Lotte 15-6. Well, that's all I have for now. This has been Stephen Che. I'll see you back here later for more from the world of sports.
Morning sprinkles here in Seoul quickly gave way to clear afternoon conditions.
And for more, we turn to our Kim Bo-kyung standing by for us at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung.
Good evening, guys. Starting off with Chindo, today is the 4th day of neap tides near the accident site. And tomorrow, tidal current should reach a maximum speed of 1.2 meters per second, which is the slowest since rescue operations began. So hopefully more progress could be made then. As for now, dry weather warnings remain for areas along the eastern coastal regions. The humidity level in Daegu has dropped to 31%, so please be on the lookout as the fire danger level is high. Taking a look at the current conditions, due to a high pressure system from the West Sea, we're seeing fairly clear skies across the map. Now, tomorrow is shaping up to be a nice and sunny day, but make sure to dress accordingly because there will be a big gap in temperatures between the day and night. Taking a closer look at Friday's readings, Seoul, Daegu, and Gwangju all hit the mid-20s while Busan peaks at 22. Moving on to other places, Jeju tops out at 22 degrees while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang reach the mid-teens. That's all for now, but don't forget to tune in for more after midnight.
And that brings our broadcast of Primetime News to a close this Thursday.
Thanks for watching and join us again tomorrow.